What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back. Pause or set play here. I'm in the Cosmodrome right now, and like many of you, I am anxiously awaiting for when Rise of Iron comes out. So right now, I'm just going ahead and stocking up on all the necessary equipment, engrams, weapon parts, the whole 9 yards. And I'm also making sure that I have all the best weapons from year 2. So one of the biggest updates for year 2 was the exotic swords. And the purpose of this video is to look at each sword and determine which is the best sword to get. In case you haven't gotten any of these yet, or if you're just getting ready to hop into these, you're trying to clean up and make sure you have all the best from year 2, since these can be upgraded to year 3 light levels. You want to make sure that you get the best one because they are lengthy quests to do. So right now I have the Void Sword equipped, Dark Drinker. This was the last one I got during the this year, and I also have the Arc Sword and the Solar Sword. So I'm going to go through each of these, give the pluses and minuses for each one, and make a determination on which one you should go after first. And we have 1 month left here, and you want to make sure you get these if you can. So the Void Sword is useful because it does have that unique attack there. The R2 attack is the unique attack for every exotic sword. And you can see that that does a massive amount of damage to multiple enemies. So this sword is unique in that it does have that ability to take out a number of enemies or mobs of enemies. If we look here at the Solar Sword, on the other hand, this sword has an R2 attack as well, but it's mainly focused on one enemy, and it does a massive amount of damage. Certainly more than the Void Sword, and much more than the R2 attack for the Solar Sword, or excuse me, the Arc Sword. This one is more of a ranged attack, and it was hard to see there since these are lower level enemies, but it does hit them multiple times, and it has a tracking component to it as well. So those are the special attacks for each of these. Of course, they also have the R1 attack, your standard slash, and it does have the corresponding elemental damage to it. Now, another interesting thing about these swords is you can block. It does use up ammo when you're blocking, and they are more effective against opposite elemental types. So if you're right there, I was blocking an arc attack, it wasn't quite as effective. Whereas if I had been blocking a solar attack, it would have been much more useful in this case. So the question then is, which of these swords should you go after first? In my opinion, and it's not even close, I think the one you want to go after first is the Solar Sword, the Raise Lighter. The R2 attack for this sword is so effective, so useful in PvE. It can devastate yellow enemies. It can put a major punch on bosses as well. For instance, when you're running the Omnigul Strike, if you have a number of characters with this sword, and you tether Omnigul with a Night Stalker Hunter, you can take out Omnigul before any of the major waves spawn. It's that effective at taking out bosses. In many ways, as far as damage output goes, this sword is very much the Gallahorn of year 2, in my opinion. That's not to say that the other swords are not useful. Certainly the Dark Drinker is useful in PvE and PvP. The ability to take out more than one enemy at a time is awesome. And a lot of folks they do like the Boltcaster for use in PvP. But I think largely, though, you're going to be using these swords more in PvE. Running strikes, doing storyline missions, raids, etc. You're going to be using the swords, I think, more in that game mode as opposed to using it in Crucible. most of the time I think players are going to be using a machine gun or a rocket launcher in Crucible. That's not to say that you won't run into players who are using the swords, but I think the learning curve for swords in Crucible is much higher than it is for machine guns and rocket launchers. And for that reason, I think you want to make your decision on which sword to get based on the effectiveness in PvE. And I think the Raise Lighter is the clear number one to be using most of the time in PvE. Now, of course, like I said, I mean, there are the elemental damages on here. So if there's a Nightfall where there's a lot of enemies with a Void Shield, yeah, then you're probably going to be wanting to use Dark Drinker. For instance, I remember when Black Spindle was first coming out, or when it first was found that you could get that exotic sniper rifle. That particular mission involved a number of Taken Wizards that had the Void Shield, and this sword came in handy for those instances. But I think it's pretty well situational with these swords, whereas this sword you can use it all the time and it just wrecks everybody. So that's my opinion. If you haven't gotten these swords yet and you're trying to make sure you get these before Rise of Iron, you want to focus on getting one sword in particular, or one sword first. Definitely go after the Raise Lighter. Get that one. Next up, I'd say get the Dark Drinker, and then if you have time and you're looking to get your last sword, get the Boltcaster last. So that's my opinion. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you disagree and there's reasons why you think the other ones are more useful, certainly let me know as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you when Rise of Iron comes out.